Satnam Aloha. So today I want to talk about the full moon that's coming up on October 6th in my neck of the woods. So it depends where you live. And this is, we're seeing the unraveling of the tribal story, the tribal consciousness, right? Of the cross of planning that we've been in since 1615, the 2027s. So the tribal story is ending. So this is part of the tribal story. So I'll get more into this. So you can see the moon is in the 21, and this comes off the willpower center. So remember, if you're unfamiliar with human design, this is a transit report that I'm doing, but you can go in the information box, get your free chart, and then come back, subscribe to my channel, and then you're going to learn if you have the 25. Maybe you can let me know, let others know in the comment box if you have the 21 natally, and you'll learn more about your chart. So this is the only controlling gate in the whole body graph is the 21. So this is the tribal hunter. The 21 is the hunter, and the hunter goes out, gets the food, protects the food and the shelter and the resources. So its job, the hunter's job, the 21st gate, is to serve the tribe by making sure that the material plane is working, right? There's food in the pot, there's work for people, and there's a reward for effort. So I'll go deeper into this archetype and I'll illustrate how the modern version of the hunter and how this all works. So this is part of the money channel, the 2145, right? So this is the money channel, the 2145. So everybody in human design, when they learn about human design, it's like, I want the money channel. But you've got to understand what it's really about. It's not just about collecting money. So this is literally the archetype, the 2145, the money channel, that built the feudal system, right? The merchant guilds, the banking system. This is the father of the tribe role, in a sense, right? So the gene key, because we look at the gene key, it's the shadow of control, it's the gift of authority, and it's the Siddhi, the divine gift of valor. So all control with the shadow is, it's about territory. It's about your territory. So the territory could be yourself, like your body, your family, your tribe, your community, your nation, the planet even. That's a territory. So we basically carved up one organism into millions of little fiefdoms, right? Millions of little fiefdoms. And then we try to police them, right? So the controllers, the 21, became the victims of their own need to control. And the ones that were controlled, because it takes two to slam dance, right? So one has to be the controller, and then the other one is the submissive. So the submissive is still under the shadow of control, and I'll explain that. So this is really about the patriarchy and hierarchy, right? Tribal consciousness is all about a hierarchy and the patriarchy. So the old cross of planning that we've been in since 1615 is run on power and money and control. So we built bureaucracies and corporate ladders and churches, militaries, and even capitalism is built on this channel. So the programming partner, if we go on the other side, right, there's the sun, because remember it's the full moon, so they oppose one another. So the 48 here, and this is the spleen, the splenic awareness system, the 48. The 48 is the shadow of inadequacy. So this is our fear, right? Our fear of not being enough. And this underpins the need to control. So if I don't lock it down, right? This is how the shadow of control works. If I don't lock it down, I'm going to lose it, right? That's where control. So the collective conditioning with control, we see control, our conditioning, as a strength. We see control as a strength. A strong leader, right, is in control. They're decisive, they're dominant, always on top. A strong parent keeps their kids in line, right? A strong government enforces laws. And that's the 21 shadow, the 21st shadow. And this is starting to break down, right? This is tightness, it's boundaries, it's hierarchy. It worked. It totally worked in the cross of planning era because our survival demanded that we coordinate. We coordinate our resource management. But the cost was tension, burnout, rebellion, and hearts breaking under this control. It's starting, we're seeing it. We're starting to break down. So what we're watching now, because this is tribal consciousness, right, dissolving, we're seeing a global distrust in institutions. The hierarchies are crumbling. Old authorities are being exposed now, right? And there's a shifting, right? There's a shifting battleground from food and land to money and attention. So control now operates through algorithms, banking, media, rather than swords and spears. That's our new modern version of this. So, and then here it's in the fifth line. See that? The moon is in the fifth line. So it's 21.5. So it can be either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So the fifth line is a projection field. So society, this full moon, we're going to start to illuminate, right? Illuminate this. We want you to be in control. We want authority and an authority, right? We want you to come and fix this mess. And you see that's a lot, like if there's a disaster in the world, because this is the cross of planning, breaking down, right? I see this time and time again, wherever people are in the world. It's like, where was the government? The government wasn't here to save us, right? And it's like blaming the government, and that's the cross of planning, breaking down, because now we're being called to be self-sovereign, right? Not projecting daddy and mommy onto the government or any other institution. So the learning curve, if the control is emotionally motivated or self-serving, it's going to backfire and it's going to create resistance. If the control is neutral and principled, right, and then it becomes authority. And we're seeing a lot of self-serving right now out in the world with our so-called leaders. So this is the training ground for the next generation of leaders. They're not going to be controlling agents. They'll be impartial stewards of the resources, right? So people, you may find if you've got, check out, right? If you've got the 21 and you've got the fifth line, that you'll be projected upon by others. Fix us, lead us, right? Stop interfering. You'll get all of those messages, right? And if you're a fifth line, you're going to be projected upon anyway, devil or saint, basically. So we'll go into this, how to transmute this, because we work with shadow, right? With neutrino astrology, and we're working with the transits. We're harnessing this energy and using it to evolve and grow you as an individual. Okay, so let's look at what else is going on here just quickly. We've got Venus in the 47th gate, and then we've got the South Node in the 47th gate, and that's all up here in the Ajna, right? That's your personal mind. So Venus is the headlines, right? The headlines that we see out in your news feed, your YouTube algorithms, that counts as the headlines. And the headlines are going to be oppression, pressure, confusion, transmutation. So we'll see more with this full moon. We're going to see more stories about people cracking under mental and emotional pressure. So there'll be headlines about corruption being exposed, right? but also the alchemy of trauma into creativity. So we can see artists and leaders speaking from their past struggles. We'll see that. And a collective focus on how do we turn our pain, right? Our pain, our struggle into meaning. People are going to be looking for this. Like, what's the meaning of this? Why are we going through this crazy, chaotic time, right, in our human history? Why? Looking for meaning. So the feminine, because it's Venus, the feminine voices carry heavy projections. So people will be both blaming the feminine, but also idealizing them too. So how this will look like is like on YouTube, you'll see the thumbnails, you'll see words like collapse, expose, breaking free, or people telling their story about how they overcame oppression. This is all gate 47 for the full moon, right? And then on Instagram and TikTok, you'll see posts about mental health, burnout, healing, personal struggle made into some kind of art. And then news, right? News media is going to be about systemic oppression, karmic justice, and people demanding transparency, right? And this is a major code for the cross of the sleeping phoenix that starts in 2027, the 59, right? Honesty and transparency. So the south node there, right? Also in the 47, this is what we're clearing. So Venus is helping us to clear this as a collective. And this is all the karmic residue of what we're clearing. So collectively, this is a karmic release of old oppressive narratives, old victim stories, right? And mental loops that we get caught in. So that's just the overall, but let's go deeper into this 21. And so we're looking at the 21 right here, and then the 45. You see, the 45 comes off the throat chakra, the 21, the willpower center, and then the 40 from the willpower center. So you can kind of understand how this works in our human history. So the hunter is connected to little g. Remember, there's big G, that's God. Little g is government. A lot of people they got it reverse, right? They're worshiping little g and then completely denying and diminishing big G. So hunter controller here is, right? The hunter, the controller, the 21st gate. So the hunter's not the king. The king is the 45. The ruler is the 45. So that's the king or queen is the 45th gate. They're not the provider, but the one who says, I'll manage the spoils, right? I'll enforce the rules. I'll make sure the tribe doesn't collapse. I'll hold the purse strings. Basically, that's the hunter. So this is the bureaucracy. That's the little g bureaucracy, the officials, the administrators, the little g structures that keep society running, right? So this is the budget controller, right? This could be the budget controller, the project manager, the head of operations. Also in the household, the one who holds the purse strings, they would also be the hunter here. So they control how things are allocated, how the resources are allocated, right? So this can become a micromanager, the one who clutches the purse strings, right? And creating tension in the heart. Each gate correlates to a part of the body, and the 21 is the heart. The will, right? The will. So then we've got gate 40. Remember gate 40 I talked about? This is a major key, right? A key. And go watch my last video and you'll learn more about this. So the 40 is the worker, right? So that's the provider. That's the provider. These are the taxpayers, the workers, the people that actually generate the resources, right? Without them, there would be nothing to govern. So this would be the late laborer, the breadwinner, the person who actually does overtime to bring the paycheck home, right? Um, and then the hunter says, I'm going to decide how this gets used, right? So this is like the paycheck. You've got your paycheck that you got paycheck, but it's going to go through the hunter, and the hunter's like, where's my piece? I need my piece. Where's your tax money here, right? That's the hunter collecting that from you. So the distortion here, of course, can be, I don't feel appreciated, I'm exhausted, right? I'm giving, right? Well, with the 40. And then the 45, that's the king or queen, and this is the symbolic head, the president, the monarch, the grand poobah, right? The face of the tribe, the grand poobah. The grand poobah doesn't really do anything. They're just the face, right? The face of that. So this is the one on the throne that declares, this is our land, this is our food, and this is how we distribute it. Right? So you as the 40, you have no say in that, really. So the modern example would be the CEO, the president, or even the family elder at the head of the table. So their power comes from recognition. The community looks to them as a symbolic ruler. They're symbolic. So the difference between the 21 and the 45 is the king isn't out there working. They're not out there hunting, right? They don't provide directly, but they oversee. They own this, and then they oversee distribution. And 45 sets the law, right, for the tribe. So you can see how they work together in the tribe, right? The 40-37 that I talked about in the last, here, just quickly see it, bring it up so people can get a visual. The 40-37, this is major pillar of the cross of planning, going through a huge mutation. So the 40-37 is the channel of community, it's the channel of marriage, it's contracts. I'll provide if you appreciate. I'll provide if you appreciate me. And then the 21-45, the money channel, is control and distribution. I'll control the resources if you recognize me as the ruler, right? So you can see the power dynamic here, right? Okay, let's go back to this. Whoops. Okay. So you see how that works, right? So let's look at this, how it's, we'll frame it. We'll put it in the frame of modern life now, right here. Okay. So the 21st gate, let's go to the collective stage, because we're seeing this breakdown in real time on the internet, all through your Wi-Fi. We're seeing this. So the shadow of control is going to get exposed. The full moon, it's already being exposed, but it's going to be really illuminated for people, right? So people are going to see more clearly, right? Where they've been ruled over by institutions, little g, governments, and relationships built on dominance. The shadow of the 45, the ruler, is dominance rather than trust. So the body feels this, right, with the 21, because it's in the heart, it's in the heart area, right? The ego center. It's also called the ego center in human design. So there can be heart strain, there can be burnout, fatigue, and resistance will show up. And people are collectively, they're tired of being controlled. And right, so this can come through chest pain, through anxiety, and a deep resentment towards authority, right? So line 5 is the projection field. Remember, it's 21.5 is the full moon, so it's a projection field. So collectively, people are projecting onto the leaders. You got to fix this. You got to fix this migration problem. You got to fix this inflation problem. You need to fix this mess, right? But also blaming them when they fail over and over again. So government CEOs, even spiritual teachers, can be both glorified and vilified, right? Because when you give your power over to someone, as a humanity, we love this. You look at those tabloid magazines at the grocery lineup, it's all about tearing people down. We build them up, put them on a pedestal, and then we tear them down, right? So this is the 21st gate. It's breaking open. It's cracking open this shadow. And that's why we're seeing all the uprisings all around the world, right? We're seeing that. And that's the 3740, right here. This is a major channel that's going through a mutation. And the 37 is about social uprisings. It's about inequality, right? Wanting equality now. So the collective begins to intuitively know control without transparency is corruption. They can smell it. They can smell it. As soon as there's no transparency and there's lies and dishonesty and manipulation, immediately those people are corrupt. We're seeing this more and more. So let's look at the modern battlefield, right? Because the 21 was the fighting to keep your territory, fighting to keep your food and your resources as a tribe, fighting other tribes. And now the battlefield, the modern battlefield, is for data. It's for data and it's for money. So ancient times control was about land and food, and now it's about information, it's about surveillance, it's about digital ID, it's about biometric ownership. So the shadow manifestation is digital ID, right? I control your access, where you go. Jab passports, I control your body, what goes in and out of your body. I track and trace, right? I control your movements, where you travel, where you're allowed to go. Social credit system, I control your behavior. And biometric data, I control your identity, right? And then censorship, right? Censorship's a big one. And censorship is I control what information you receive. So therefore, I control your perception of the world. If I control the information you receive from the external, then I control your perception of the world, right? This is the shadow manifestation of this 21st gate that's being illuminated, right? And what is it? It's a bargain across the planning. So trying to hold on to control, right? Trying to hold on to control. And these are the collective bargains. You do this, right? You do this, you got a digital ID, you got your passport, you allow yourself to be tracked and traced, you get a social credit system, you accept censorship. Well, that's the bargain. And the bargain is what? What do they always promise? Safety and security, safety and security. And this is, I'll get rid of your fear for you. You won't feel fearful anymore. Just give me all your freedom. Right? That's the bargain. But remember, this bargain's breaking down. This 2145 used to work in the past. Now it's not. It's not going to work from the past. And I talked about this in the last video, this conservatism about wanting to go back to the good old days. Well, you can't step in the same river twice. You know, we're moving on. We're moving on. Now we can't go back. The past is gone. And we're going to see this more and more, right? These old bargains from the old cross of planning. They're like, can't you smell the mothballs on them from your screen? Yeah, it's old. It's old. It's old. And we know that deep down. So you have to watch this. You have to be discerning. I don't know if I like this bargain. This doesn't look like a good bargain to me, you know? So society's been run on the belief that control equals strength, right? That right? Governments were built on this, on this control, the 21st gate, built on entire bureaucracies to manage territory, money, land, resources, even people's bodies. But transparency is missing, right? And that's that 59 that's coming in strong. That's a code, major code for the sleeping phoenix is the 59. So transparency, that's the city of the 59, and people now sense that hunter over there is eating, right? He's eating first. He's hoarding resources, right? Which is like money laundering. It's like moving through these so-called foundations, nonprofit foundations, and back into his pocket, right? People are sensing that now about the hunter. They know that the hunter's not making decisions for the benefit of the tribe. It's all self-serving, right? And that's when control turns into corruption, because this is dissolving and disappearing. It's not pure and in integrity like it used to be. So the result is revolution, right? Age of Aquarius. So the people, the 40th gate, right? The workers, they're losing trust in the 21, right? The hunters, the controllers, and even they're losing trust in the 45, right? The leaders, the king and queen archetypes, the presidents, they get exposed, or prime ministers, as symbolic puppets. They're really puppets. They don't really have any power. They're puppets. So we're seeing the social uprisings. When gate 21 is out of integrity, it puts a strain on the collective heart, right? The collective heart of humanity. Yeah, and we can see this now, right, with all the protests against government and institutions. People out there demanding accountability, demanding transparency, demanding justice. And the collapse of the trust in the system, right? Even the legal system. So it's not random chaos. This is the old code of control can't hold anymore. And this full moon is showing us that. So what's emerging instead? It's Aquarius. Aquarius is not about hierarchy, right? It's about decentralized power. So we're moving from a hierarchy to a synarchy. That's the 45, the synarchy in the gene keys. So authority won't disappear, but it's going to shift from a fear-based control, I have to control from fear, to a frequency-based, right? So we're moving from fear to frequency. Frequency is a huge word for the cross of the sleeping phoenix. So people, in terms of leadership, they're only going to follow leaders whose vibration feels transparent. They don't have a hidden agenda. You can feel it. They're authentic. That's another big word for the cross of the sleeping phoenix. You can feel their authenticity. They're in service to the whole. It's not about self-serving. It's not about lining their pockets, right? And people are going to be able to feel that. The masks are coming off. We're seeing this. The masks are coming off. People are not so tricked so easily. And then we're moving from little g to big G, right? So we're going to start governing ourselves, right? Being self-sovereign, rulership over yourself, not from a place of ego, but from a place of soul. So this is local communities, grassroots networks, right? Online groups and organizations that are decentralized power, right? It's decentralized power, spiritual fractals coming together, and this all based on frequency and soul, not this hierarchy. So, and then we're moving from control to valor, right? To valor, and that's the city of the 21. I'll talk about this. So the 21 is really going from going through a death and rebirth process here, right? So true strength isn't hiding behind rules and laws. That's not true strength. But it's the leaders who have the courage to serve openly, to stand up for truth. There's so few of them. You can like count them on one hand, you know? But this is changing. This is changing. Okay, so the political unrest, right? We're seeing that. So just take note of that, right? It helps to really understand what's happening, the collapse. It's the collapse of this old system. So the new can start to emerge, and it is. It's emerging. At the same time, the collapse is happening. Other things are emerging that are more aligned with the cross of the sleeping phoenix. And that's what I want for you, is to shift out of that system, move out of the matrix that's based in fear, and then move into this new construct. And that's the cross of the sleeping phoenix. So the full moon is really asking, do we continue to give our power away to controllers? Do we continue to give our power away to controllers? Right? Collectively, controllers, or even controllers in your life. Well, and I'm going to talk about that. Or do we claim our own self-sovereignty? Right? So that's a good question to ask as for the collective. So now we got to talk about Pluto. Pluto. So Pluto is still up here, look, still in the 60.6. So this is also a major player in what we're seeing going on, right? So Pluto is the shadow of limitation right there. And that's coming off the root, right? The root chakra. So Pluto went retrograde on May 4th. And it's been retrograde since May 4th, and it's going direct this month, October 13th. So take note of that, and I'll remind you too. So we're still in the karmic rehash of material control and systemic limits, feeling limited by the system because it's collapsing, but we're feeling limited. That's what Pluto is saying here, right? So I think I mentioned this before in a previous video when I mentioned that Pluto was going retrograde, that it will feel like things will get more and more contracted and limited, and that it will seem to many that we're going backwards. We're regressing as a humanity, but we're actually not. It's like a karmic rehash. You know, we're going over, you wash the pot of the dirt and you just go back one more time. I'm going to do one more time and get right down to the bottom with the scrubby and get everything out of there. That's what the Pluto in the 60.6 is telling us. Right? So when it went retrograde on May 4th, it was in the 41st gate, right? Line 2, and that's the start codon, the 41.2, and May 4th, and then it goes backwards, right? Because it's retrograde, so it went into the 60th gate again, but not fully, not into Capricorn, but still in Aquarius, but still in the 60th gate. So the shadow here is restrictions. The shadow of the 60.6 is restrictions. You're being restricted by the system, and it's disguised as order. We're going to issue censorship, right? We're going to restrict what you can talk about. We're going to restrict what you can read, what information you can take in. That's the restriction. And it's disguised as order. It's to keep society safe and secure, right? So we don't inflame with hate speech and things and violence, and right. That's the excuse. These restrictions, and it's disguised as order. So the world is feeling it as more rules and more controls, right? So that's how the world is experiencing. We're getting more rules. We're getting more clamped down upon. There's more control coming in. And then Pluto is also out of bounds. Out of bounds. And this means Pluto's been testing extremes, right? The Plutonian energy is really strong right now because it's out of bounds. It's testing extremes, right? So this is governments really pushing little G, really pushing the envelope on how they can extend control. How much control can we put on the collective before they revolt? Before they say it's enough, right? This is enough, no more. And then Pluto goes direct on October 13th of this month. And so we're going to see these themes really amplify this month because Pluto's going direct. It's moving direct. So we'll probably see more push for digital control systems before the mutation fully locks in. It's kind of like the last chance, right? The last chance to get all this new world order stuff in, right? So we're going to be they're going to be pushing this hard, governments, really hard. And then Pluto moves into the 41st gate, December 4th. And this is Waigiru. This is the fish jumping out of the water, right? Why? Because we're through that dark tunnel, right? That dark tunnel of limitation. So December 4th, I'll remind you of this too, right? So this is the root. This is the start, right? The mandala, right? Pluto moves around the mandala. And then the 41 is the first, right? It's the first here. And a second, I just want to check something. Right? Because it takes Pluto about 248 years to go around the sun. So when it comes into the 41.1, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And so it's basically there, right? The whole time. It's like it's not going back to the 60, right? So the star codon. So this is we leave behind the tribal control limitation codes and we step into the mutation timeline, the new here. So just watch, observe, right? It's like observe but don't absorb, right? What's happening in the world, and just knowing this is just the collapse. To not prevent it from collapsing, you can't prevent the Titanic from going down. Nobody can. It's part of our evolution, right? We're going through this great transition as a humanity. Okay. Okay. So in terms of Pluto, the collective is basically losing faith. That's what we're gonna see is we're losing faith. In these institutions. So something else I wanted to talk about in terms of the archetype of Valor, right? That's the Siddhi of the 21. The higher octave of that is Valor. So Valor, you always think of soldiers in the war, right? Valor. Courageous, right? Courage under fire, doing these amazing feats of honor and, nobility and sacrificing themselves for others and for country and king, fighting for country and king, right? That's a beautiful word, is the word valor. So I wanted to put the feminine spin on it for the divine feminines. So you may have heard of this. Let me know. The Valkyries. You may have heard of these. So this is from Norse mythology. And so they weren't warriors for their own glory. They were the choosers of the slain, right? So the warriors they would choose who died and who would live, the Valkyrie here. So they did this through discernment. They did this through discernment to carry the fallen heroes to Valhalla, where the soldiers would feast, right, and celebrate, and they would train for the Ragnarok, which I'll explain in a sec. So they were seen as divine emissaries, like divine escorts, right? Divine escorts, though. Fierce and beautiful and unbribable, and absolutely loyal to the king, right? Which is King Odin. So Valhalla, that's the halls of Valhalla. This was the hall of the slain, right? So in Odin's great hall, where warriors were chosen by the Valkyries, are brought after dying nobly in battle, right? So there the fallen heroes would feast, drink, and train for the ultimate battle to come. And symbolically, this is the higher plane of nobility, a place reserved not for those who live cautiously, that lived out of fear, right? But those who gave everything. And that would be like giving everything is like living with courage as your authentic self. No compromise, right? To modernize that. So the frequency link here is, with the Siddhi of Valour, the divine gift of valor. This is nobility, it's courage, it's self-sacrifice for a higher ideal, right? So the shadow of control is dominating territory for personal gain. And the gift, right, is to govern neutrally, no favorites, no nepotism, right, in service to the whole. And then the divine gift is you transcend control entirely. And your will becomes an instrument of the divine. So it really fits with that 40 too, right? The Siddhi of the 40 is divine will. You become the will of the divine, right? Through your courage, right? In your service, So this is the feminine personification of this Siddhi. And so she doesn't control. The Valkyrie doesn't control. She discerns. She doesn't manipulate. She escorts souls. And she's loyal not to a tribe's ego, but to a divine order that's beyond human hierarchy. So she's basically obeying the divine. She's not obeying the controllers and the king, right? The humans with worldly power. She's not obeying that. She obeys the divine, right? The divine. So in shadow, like she would be fear. She would exhibit fear and secrecy and control and corruption. But as a Valkyrie, she's courageous, she's transparent, she's discerning, and she is aligned with selfless service, right? Serving the whole of humanity. Not from a place of martyrdom, but from a place of her soul, And remember when I said, when you're aligned with your soul, the first thing that the soul wants is to serve the soul and others, right? So this is the Valkyrie. So at to operate at the highest octave, the hunter, the 21, right, becomes the protector. Not hoarding the spoils, but guarding the sacred. Not hunting animals, but escorting souls. So this would be helping souls to transition into this new age, right? The ones that are really reaching for it, not the ones that are like told completely in their ego, right? Not those ones, the ones that are really like on their spiritual path. These are the ones that you escort, you help. Whatever you're doing, a life coach, yoga teacher, a healer, whatever, those are the ones that are reaching for you, right? This is you as the Valkyrie. You're escorting a soul. You're not enforcing hierarchy, but you embody divine authority. So this is the thing, right? It's like you have a position, especially if you're on my fractal, you have a responsibility in a sense, right? You have a destiny, you have a soul purpose. And that means stepping into authority, into a position of authority. And it's usually the ones that don't want that. Like if you're feeling that resistance right now with my words, like, no, I don't want that. You're the best, right? Because you're so resistant. You're not coming from ego, right? You're not going to come from ego. And in fact, the one that's telling you that, no, that's your high priestess in hiding that doesn't want to be visible in this lifetime. But it's like going into that correct position, right? Because there's a new age teaching, like so wishy-washy, some of the new age teaching. We're all leaders. No, we're not. We're not all leaders. Some are designed, right? Some are designed to be leaders, right? That's just who they are. So it's in that, what does that mean? There means that there's followers that want to follow you. So it's really just it's not about ego and I'm going to power over you and I'm going to exploit you and for my own selfish needs. It's like, no, this is the role that you're playing. It's like you're putting on a costume and you play the role as an authority, especially if you have the 21st gate. But if you're in a healing position or something like that, it's like, take it. It's yours. Claim it, right? There's others that want you in that role. They want you in that role. And you know who you are. Because if you're like, no, not me. That's like, it's you. It's you. So the Valkyrie, right? Remember with authority, it's not about a hierarchy. You're playing a role. That's all. You're not better than someone else because you're an authority. You're playing a role. Just like the people are playing the role of the follower, you're going to play the role as the authority. So with the Valkyrie, they descend into the battlefield, right? And so this is you're descending into the chaos of life, and it's going to get more and more chaotic, right? But you don't lose your own sense of self, right? Your own higher self. You make choices on the behalf of the greater story. The greater story is we're transitioning into this new age, and people are freaked out about it. They're going to be clutching to that shadow of control. Please tell me what to do, right? Keep me safe. Okay, digital ID, yeah, I'll get it. You want to keep your composure, and then they'll look to you and say, why are you so calm, right? Why are you so calm? Why are you so expanded? Why do you have so much trust and faith? Those are the ones, right? They'll be drawn to you. But this is you in touch with your higher self, your divinity. And right? So you're making choices. You can see the bigger story. I'm giving you the bigger story, the elevated perspective on what's going on in the world. And you can help others by being the embodiment of that, right? That authority. So you guide people who are ready to move into the higher plane, into a higher vibration, ready to move into the phoenix, right? So this requires fierce discernment. The Valkyrie is fierce discernment. It's radical transparency, and it's absolute loyalty. Absolute, no wishy-washy when it comes to loyalty to your soul, right? This is 100% committed to your soul, right? You're not being tempted by distractions on the material realm. It's like I'm 100% committed to my soul. And not right over an external authority, over your husband, your soul comes first. Over your job, career, your soul comes first. Over money, your soul comes first. Over church, your soul comes first. Over government, your soul comes first. Right? That's number one. Your number one relationship is with your soul. And then your willingness to escort dead patterns out of your life. These old cross of planning bargain. I play this role to stay safe. Hey, come with me. And then you throw it in the fire, right? You're escorting these dead patterns. They're not going to survive into the cross of the sleeping phoenix. Out of the field, right? Out of your field. So this is the code. You stop trying to control life and instead act as a transparent instrument of the will of the divine. And that's when your nobility is born. Like, look at her. She had all this oppressive pressure on her, you know, and she didn't know how she was going to make money, but she's like, I have faith in the divine. People will be looking to you as an authority. And I'm talking to the 6 lines. If you're a 6 line, you need to get out of hiding and come down and be the role model for what it looks like to be self-sovereign, what it looks like to be 100% committed to your soul. The 6 lines, that's why you're here. So giddy up. It's time for you to show yourself to the world because people are looking to you. This is a 6 line. This is the Valkyrie. You're a Valkyrie. So remember the archetype. This is like, well, what am I going to run out with armor on and a big sword? No, right? What you're going to do, these are archetypes. They live in the collective unconscious. They're energy pockets in the collective unconscious. You just need to tap into it. You need to tap into the frequency of the Valkyrie, right? This amazing discernment, right? This discernment. And you tap into this and you wear it like an energetic costume. You're wearing the energetic costume of the Valkyrie, right? So she's purified. The Valkyrie is purified. She's no longer hunting for power. She's no longer hunting for money. She descends into the chaos of the world with a sword of discernment. This is her sword of truth. She's transparent. She's unbribable. She's not going to sell her soul for money. We're seeing that so much out in the world, what people will do just for money, right? It's sad. It's really sad. And that's the false god. The false god on our planet is money. I'm not saying that money's bad, but it's how people can be so tempted by it. It's about the consciousness. It's not about the thing, right? That consciousness. Okay. So if we go to why the Valkyrie? So this is the Ragnarok. This is the end, right? Their ultimate battle, and we're into it. We're in it. This right here. And this is when the phoenix rises, right? So so with this, why it's important, right? Why is this important? So the old control codes and corrupted values, and really interesting that the new moon in October is in the 50th gate. That's the shadow of corruption. So we're really seeing this tribal story start to unravel for humanity. They're cracking. And you're feeling this in your nervous system, Divine Feminine. This is the exhaustion. It's the mistrust. It's the heartbreak. And the Valkyrie archetype reminds you chaos isn't the end. The Valkyrie archetype reminds you chaos is not the end. It's the battlefield where you choose. You're in the battlefield now and you're choosing with discernment. So the Ragnarok is the prophesized ending of the world. It's the great battle between the gods and the giants and fire and ice and chaos and order. So the warriors in Valhalla trained for this moment to fight alongside Odin for the final stand. So this is, if we look at this like symbolically, the Ragnarok is the destruction of the old order. It's the old order. It's the destruction of it so that a new earth can arise that's more fertile, more creative, more luminous, right? So this is the end of the cross of planning. This is the final battle. This is the collapse of the old institutions and the rise of the Phoenix codes, the 59, the 55, the 34, the 20 start to rise. So this requires valor. When the Phoenix rises, it requires valor. And rebirth doesn't come from comfort. If you're comfortable, you're not in the rebirth. Look at if you've ever been to a live birth, right? It's messy. It's uncomfortable for the mother. It comes with sacrifice. And sacrifice is letting go of your old patterns, letting go of your people-pleasing pattern, letting go of your overgiving pattern, letting go of weak attachments and false authorities, people that you've made an authority over you, right? So you're escorting the dead codes away. So you embody, right, as a divine feminine, you're going to embody a fierce feminine discernment. You're the divine feminine. You already have this gift of discernment. And this is the key. It's already in you. You don't need to read a book about it or watch a YouTube about it. Go to a workshop about it. It's already in you. You just need to claim it. So the Valkyrie doesn't go all sentimental, right, and soft when the battlefield is filled with dishonor. And she's seen all the dishonor out in the battlefield. Valkyrie doesn't go soft. She sees clearly. Think of Queen of Swords, right? The Queen of Swords in the tarot. She sees clearly who has nobility, who has integrity, right? Who's walking the talk. She sees that, right? So who has the nobility and the integrity and the courage to move forward into this new age, right, of the sleeping phoenix, and who must fall away? Because she can't piggyback them. She can't piggyback them. There's too many of them. She needs somebody that can walk beside her, right? So you know who these people are and who they're not, right, through your power of discernment. And by this point in our journey, they're not going to change, right? Especially if you're with a karmic relationship, they are not changing because they're not coded to move into the cross of the sleeping phoenix. Does it mean they're going to die and pass away? No, they just won't be in the same world as you. Right? There's one planet, but there's billions of worlds. We're all living in our world. They won't be in your world. They can't. They don't have the frequency. They don't have the codes. So how you can apply this Valkyrie archetype? Well, a few things. Discernment in your relationships. You want to recognize the weak masculine. I did a whole video on this, why spiritually awake women are attracted to or attract weak masculine. These are the men who hide behind their ego, right? They're dishonest, they're manipulative, they're dependent, they're completely materialistic. They talk a really good talk about spirituality, but they're not embodying it. They talk a real good talk about changing, but they don't change. Right? So you want to discern that. You want to recognize the strong masculine, the man who walks in transparency, that's honest, right? That's in service to the whole, not in service to himself and his own ego, right? And he has integrity, and And you'll be able to see at this full moon, people can't hide behind their masks anymore. So don't look away. Don't look away when you start to see the truth, and bring out the Valkyrie archetype. I'm discerning. I'm not going soft. Oh, poor him, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm on the battle. I'm on the battlefield. I need somebody. Somebody who can meet me, who's my match, right? And then transparency as, does this person fight for truth, capital T truth, or do they fight for their ego, right? Are they fighting for their ego or are they fighting for truth, right? And then, and you'd rather not be with a weak character, a weak masculine with a weak character. You would do much better by standing alone, right? So you choose who walks beside you. You're choosing that, right? And Valkyrie women do not lay with men of weak character. They do not lay with men of weak character. They stand beside men of valor, or they stand alone. And this is their protection and their power. Their protection and their power is to hold that integrity for themselves. And then transparency as a weapon. The Valkyrie, they don't manipulate, they don't hide, and they wield transparency like a sword of light, right? They're honest. They're honest. Every lie, every half-truth, every hidden agenda burns in their presence. Burns in their presence. Doesn't get in. Doesn't get in at all. And this is how you cleanse your home, your relationship, and your communities of corruption, right? Just through your aura, as the Valkyrie archetype. Living by valor, not control. So stop trying to control outcomes, and living nobly, making choices that are rooted in love, integrity, and courage, even if it costs you your comfort or security. Right? Comfort and security, that's you compromising. That's corruption. You're betraying yourself. Truth. Choose truth. Let the divine worry about your comfort and how you're going to make money and where you're going to live and all those things. Your job is to stand in truth right now. Right? That's the best thing you can do. And then your vibration will bring everything you need to you. You don't need to be manipulative. You don't need to be holding on to these weak masculine because they look like they have power in the external world. They don't. And you're going to see this. You know, Neptune and Saturn are conjunct February 20th, 2026, and 0 degrees Aries. What's that? That's the collapse and fall of the false king. Waheguru. They're going down. The manipulative male, the power-hungry male, the egotistical, materialistic male is going down, right? That's like its start point, and the start point is the divine masculine is rising with the divine feminine, right? So you're going to see their masks are coming off, their power is being taken away from them because it's all false. It's been stolen. They stole that power. Stolen valor, right? It's stolen valor. So live nobly. Choose truth. Choose your soul first, and then trust and have faith. Right? So, okay. So when you embody, because let's bring it back to the body, right? Members of divine feminine, your body is your oracle right now. Your body's always going to tell you this truth. Your mind and your ego will always lie to you, maybe speak the truth to you a few times, but lie, manipulate. Your body you can trust 100%. Your body's always going to tell you the truth. Your body is your oracle. So how does it feel in the body when the Valkyrie archetype's alive? Your spine will straighten. Your spine will straighten. Your chest will open. Your gaze is steady. The Valkyrie has no time for the victim, right? Well, I've got this problem and that problem with you got no body problem. You got a spiritual problem. Your body is communicating what needs to be corrected. We've been in that 18th gate all week, right? When you bring in the Valkyrie, it pushes that victim out of your field, right? The Valkyrie doesn't come with the victim story. Poor me, and I had all these horrible things happen to me in the past. Right? So your nervous system shifts from fear and tightness to fierce clarity. Right? So don't be afraid of what people are afraid of, what they're going to see when they embody this, because once they see it, you can't unsee it. And then you have to change, and they have to make different choices. Right? So you stop leaking your energy when the Valkyrie comes in. You stop trying to manage other people. You stop trying to, be a chameleon. What does that person want from me? Don't do that anymore. You step into your power. Right? You can't fool me. Right? The Valkyrie is like, you can't fool me. I can see right through you. That's the Valkyrie, the power of the Valkyrie. She's not a beggar. Right? She's not a beggar. Okay. So I want to talk about this, because this is a big word. Surrender. For control. So maybe you have some control issues yourself that are coming up. That's what we do. That's what the ego does when we're going through great change, and we can feel it. If you close your eyes and you go deep within, you can feel the change that's upon us. We can't stop it. And controlling and hoarding and white knuckling what you have is not the answer. You have to let go. You've got to surrender. So there's a misconception, right? Well, if I surrender, that means I'm giving up, right? So there's a difference here between surrender. This is a place of power and strength, is surrender, and resignation. And this is fear, right? This is ego. This is soul, surrender. There's no growth and evolution on the spiritual path without the S word. You have to surrender. You have to surrender. So let's look at resignation. Maybe we can discern, right? The power of discernment here. Resignation feels heavy. It feels like I'm giving up. I feel defeated. I feel deflated, right? And it's shadow driven, right? So it comes from fear, inadequacy, and a sense, I can't change this. So why bother? I can't change this relationship. I can't change this person. So why bother? I might as well just go with this, right? And the body signal is you collapse. You've got a slumped posture. You have shallow breath. You're exhausted. You've got no energy because you're choosing ego when you choose resignation. The result, it keeps you stuck in oppression. It's passive control. It's part of this shadow of control, but it's passive. This is submissive, right? You're taught, I'm going to just submit to this person that's controlling, is so controlling of my life. He controls the emotional field in our home. He controls how I think, what I should say. Maybe he controls what I should wear, right? He's just super controlling. It's all about him. Well, you're submissive and you're in the shadow control. And you're still tied to the shadow because you've surrendered your agency, right? You've given up your agency to a person, to this person, because you think they have power over you because they have the 21. They're holding the purse strings, right? Maybe they're paying for the bills and most of the rent and making your decisions for you. Right? So basically you've abdicated your power, right? You've abdicated your self-sovereignty. This is not surrender. That's resignation. And it's coming from the ego. And the ego is going to tell you, you have no power. You've got no power to change this. And you're believing it, right? And maybe the controlling partnership that you're in, relationship is also telling you, how are you going to survive without me? You need me. And you're believing this, and it's lies. This full moon's going to really illuminate this dynamic, and don't look away. Don't look away. Because when you have the truth, that's the only thing that's real. And once you have the truth, it's like, oh, I can do something now. Because I know now. I'm not going to deny the truth anymore. So let's look at surrender, because that's the answer. So if you're in resignation right now, there's nothing I can do, then you move into surrender, to surrender. And remember that meme that I just did? If the situation isn't being fixed, if life's not fixing the situation, there's no change happening, I'm just looping over and over and over again, well, maybe the situation is about fixing you, aligning you to your power. Maybe that's the purpose of the situation. So it's another way of looking at this, right? To empower yourself. So let's look at surrender. Your energy is open. It's expansive. You're letting go into trust, right? Trust and faith. This is coming from the gift. It comes from courage, transparency, and a knowing that life's bigger than you. Life is way bigger than you, and that you trust the flow, right? There's a knowingness that there's a higher power that has a divine plan for you, and it's not to be stuck in these karmic loops. That's not the divine plan for you. This is your life, and this life is really, really short, right? There's a beginning and an ending. You want to make the best of your life, especially the time that we're in right now. It's not about you being safe and secure and comfortable, because you're not. It comes at a cost. Your soul is dying, right? You're infertile in a sense, right? As a soul, you're dying inside, right? The cost is too great. This resignation. There's a divine plan for you that's more, that you can't even imagine what it is, right? So your body signal when you're in surrender is your softened chest. Your chest is soft. You have an upright spine. You're breathing deep. And your storyline, what you tell yourself, is life is with me, right? The divine is with me. The divine is supporting me. I choose to align with the divine. I'm not going to fight anymore, right? I'm letting go. I'm letting go. I'm giving it all, right, to the divine. So the result, it liberates your energy, it brings clarity, and it shifts you from control to authority to valor, right? So how this can play out, resignation, right? You stay in relationships that are not going anywhere. They're no energy. You're just going over the same problems over and over and over and over again. You're not going anywhere. You stay in jobs or systems that feel oppressive, telling yourself, well, this is just how it is. And you're submitting yourself to the 21st shadow of control. So submission is the other side of control. In surrender, you're choosing to release the control of the dynamics, and you're stepping into truth. You're stepping into your own self-rule. It's like, no, I'm doing the thinking for myself now. I'm speaking for myself now. I'm getting in touch with my truth, right? And I say to this people in human design, Ross said this over and over again, is sleep alone. If you find yourself looping in a karmic relationship, get out of the field. When you go to sleep at night, you're most conditioned. You're in his field. You're in his dream world. You're in his neuroses. You're basically him, right? You're not you. You remove yourself. You go sleep on the couch if you have to get a good night's sleep, and that will bring you back and aligned with yourself, with your own truth. Writing in your journal, alone in your own aura, get in touch with your higher self, right? It's all about getting out of that conditioning field and start aligning with yourself. Start surrendering to your higher self. Start listening to your higher self. And the divine plan will start to unfold for you, right? Don't stay in resignation. Okay, so this means walking alone for a while, right? Surrender may mean walking alone for a while And that's okay, because remember, your number one relationship is with your soul. Yeah. So resignation is the victim saying, I got no power, I give up. And surrender is the sovereign being that you are saying, I let go. I give this to the divine, right? I don't know. I can't figure this out. I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go. And resignation collapses your heart. It shuts down your heart. It shuts down your vital energy. And surrender opens your heart. It opens up your energy, right? So the full moon is asking you, where are you resigning to control? Are you controlling others? Are you trying to control your environment? Or are you being controlled? That's the shadow. And where are you ready to surrender into transparency? Where are you ready to surrender into being soul ruled? Right? Soul ruled, not ego ruled. Okay. So let's go to, let me see if I had another. Okay. Here's a meme that right? The Phoenix. You're on the Phoenix path, right? So maybe you're in the exhaustion. These are the 3 stages, right? Exhausted, surrender, and then rebirth. Exhausted is like, nothing's working in my life. I'm trying everything. I'm trying to fix this relationship. I'm trying to fix myself. I'm trying to control and get more money. How can I get more money? How can I fix that? How can I fix my body? How can I fix that? And you know what? It's exhausting to control. It's exhausting. So you're exhausted. And finally, you get to this point of surrender. It's like, I ran out of moves. I got no moves yet. I got no strategies. I got no plan B, C, D, E. I got nothing. This is a good place to be. That's when you're surrendered. And this is the ego death. And this is the ego that comes up and says, you're inadequate. You're no good. You've got nothing of worth. You're worthless. You've got nothing to contribute to the world. You're such a loser. Look at you, blah, blah, blah. That's the ego screaming to stay alive, but it's being burned in the flames. So this is the pain. What's the pain from? It's that ego being released, right? Which comes with a lot of pain underneath, right? But you're releasing the pain. You're feeling, you're crying, you're on your knees, you're in the fetal position, you're wailing like an animal, you're surrendering, you're completely surrendering, and you're being burned, right? By the flames of transformation. And then look what happens. This is the rebirth. Your true self is born from this is your false self that's burning away, right? Your false self's burning away in the flames. And then you come out as your authentic self, free, light, right? Self-sovereign. And we all have to go through this process, right? And it's not a one-time thing. It's like over and over and over again. This is the deconditioning process. And this is the cross of the sleeping phoenix being born. So it's knowing that this is at the other end, right? So if you're in this position, nothing's working in your life, then I would say surrender. Surrender. That's the best thing you can do. When in doubt, surrender. When in doubt again, surrender more. Keep surrendering more and more and more until it's like, I can't surrender anymore. Well, surrender even more, right? And then this will move you through to the rebirth, right, process. Okay. Okay, so where are we going to go next? Okay, so let's do the tarot read. The tarot read. Okay, so this is for the Phoenix Fractal. I meant to say at the beginning for people to stick around for the tarot read, because you learn a little bit more about the transits, but through the archetype of the tarot. Okay, so the shadow of control, right? So what is this saying with the hangman reversed? Well, the fractal feels stuck. You may feel stuck in suspension, waiting for someone else to decide, waiting for something else to come in, right? To make the decision for you. So in reverse, this is really about a fear of surrendering, fear of letting go, clinging to the old control dynamics rather than surrendering. Remember, the old ways aren't going to work anymore. Yeah, they worked in the past, in a sense, but they're not going to work anymore. So it's the feeling of being hung up by others' authority, sacrificing yourself to systems or karmic partners, but not for the right reasons, right? So this is surrendering not to your soul, not to the divine, but to another person, another ego. That's who you're surrendering, right? That's the blind leading the blind, right? Your ego is going to follow another ego. That's the blind leading the blind, and you're gonna, remember the Bugs Bunny cartoon? You're going to be like going off the cliff, like the coyote, and then it's down. The two of you going off the cliff. You want to be listening to your soul. Take your authority back. Take your crown back, right? Maybe you threw your crown on the floor when you got involved with that karmic and you put the crown on their head. Take your crown back. I am self-sovereign. I'm listening to my own higher self that loves me unconditionally. Karmic relationship does not love you unconditionally because they're not coded for that, right? You listen to your higher self. Who would you want to listen to? Somebody that loves you unconditionally, or somebody that's manipulating you and dishonest with you, right? Not hiding things from you, right? Doesn't have your best interest in mind. Certainly doesn't want you doing your higher purpose. Right? No, you listen to the one that loves you unconditionally. And that's your soul here. So surrender to that. Surrender to that. And then the oppressive story, because the only reason you're surrendering to that karmic is because you're in fear. You're afraid to be alone. You're afraid you won't survive without that karmic. It's not true. That's the lie of the ego. So the oppressive story, ready to transmute, is the Three of Swords reversed. And so this means your heartbreak story is being rewritten. So healing, mending, release of betrayal loops. Maybe you've been betrayed over and over and over and over again in your relationships. Well, you're finally ready to let that loop go. You're tired of that movie, right? It's like you bought the ticket in the theater and the movie just keeps running for eternity. Oh my God, this story again. I'm watching this movie again. I've already seen it 15 times and it's playing again. Yeah. So this is the Three of Swords is like, no, that movie reel's coming off now. You're not going to watch that movie another time. You're putting on another movie and it doesn't involve betrayal and manipulation, right? And dishonesty. So this is your letting go of I was betrayed, I was oppressed, I was hurt. And now it can be transmuted into wisdom and vision. You got the story. This is why this was happening. To trigger my childhood trauma. To resolve this karmic from my past lives. Right? So that I learn to stand up for myself. You're going to get the wisdom. You'll get the lesson. You can walk out of that theater. Go into a new theater maybe, right? So this is about cutting cords, energetic cords to your karmic heartbreaks and no longer defining yourself by your wound. I'm the one that gets betrayed. I'm the one people leave me. I'm the one that gives and gives and gives. I'm the one nobody notices. You're letting that go, right? That old identity. So the discernment, this is the Valkyrie call, 6 of Wands. Here comes recognition and victory and and discernment. So this is the Valkyrie who sees who's fought with honor. This is you, right? You're the who's fought with honor in my life and who is not, right? So this is the public acknowledgement of nobility. So this is you're being called to discern the noble masculine. Who's been the noble masculine in your life? Who are the men that showed up in your life? Who are the men that walk their talk? Right? Who are the men that were in integrity? Versus the weak masculine, ego-driven, dishonest, hiding, right? That's the weak masculine. Now you're going to see them. You're up on the horse. You got a good view, right? You can see. So the Valkyrie's work is choose only to walk with those who embody valor. Only walk with those that embody valor. And you may say, well, I don't know if I have many of those around, not even one. Well, you embody the Valkyrie, right? And you're discerning by letting the rest of them go, right? That are not coded to walk with you. And then the Phoenix code that's rising for you is the Strength card in the Eight of Cups. So the Phoenix code here is inner courage, the Strength card, gentleness that tames the beast, not control, you're not controlling, you're soul-led here. And the Eight of Cups is the walk away. I'm walking away. I'm not looking back, right? That person's not looking back. They're walking on, right? Walking on. So leaving behind what no longer nourishes you at the soul level, even if at one time it did look good, but it's not good anymore. Right? It's not going to change. You're walking away. So the Phoenix code here is the courage to walk away from dishonor. The courage is to trust transparency and choose your soul over comfort. What is this doing to your soul? Staying in a relationship, a job, career, place of living. What's it doing to your soul? Right? Listen to your soul. But I don't know. There's nothing, right? If I close this door, well, there's nothing out there. But sometimes that's how it works. The divine tests you. This tested me many, many times. Nothing. There was nothing on the horizon. But I knew at a soul level that I couldn't stay. It was killing my soul. I was betraying myself. Until finally you stand up and it's like, no, I'm worth more than this. I have self-respect. I have self-esteem. That's not being reflected back to me in this situation. That's not narcissism. That's like your soul. That's your soul, right? Virtue of the soul is self-respect, self-value, self-worth, right? And then it's like, I walk away and I trust and have faith, and the divine will bring what you need. That's an alignment, right? With what you need to support you in this. The divine wants us to be our authentic self, right? And start to treat ourselves with self-respect. So the act of valor is the Page of Cups reversed and the Knight of Swords. So this is like stop chasing immature fantasies. Oh, he's going to change. I know he'll change, right? He's going to change without doing anything. It's like magical thinking, right? Page of Cups. Or staying stuck in illusions of romantic rescue. So either you're going to rescue somebody or they're going to come in and rescue you. So you're letting this go. This is your act of valor on the battlefield. And then the Knight of Swords is acting with clarity, courage, and truth. So this is swift, decisive alignment with what's real. So this is like, I'm not afraid to look in to see this person, this situation in truth. I'm not afraid anymore. So this is valor, means cutting through the illusions of weak, ego-driven masculine. This is the page reversed. He's immature. He's a child in a man's body, right? You're ready to see this. And you're choosing bold, clear, forward, moving truth. That's the Knight of Swords right here. And then the Anchor card. We haven't seen this guy in a while. The Devil reversed. So this is saying liberation. This is the anchor of the whole reading. Liberation from bondage. The chains of control and oppression are being broken. So this is release from fear-based contracts, right? They've come from fear. Maybe from your past life, they've come from fear. They're tribal, they're karmic, they're societal, right? So this full moon is literally unbinding you from false bargains, the control submission games, right? This job controls me, this man controls me, right? This woman controls me. And money and institutions control me. You're letting go of all of this. This is the false institutions that are keeping you karmically bound. The full moon is like this is you're being untethered, right? Those chains are being cut, right? Those chains are being cut. Okay. The chains are breaking. So the full moon is freeing you from control and inviting you to be soul ruled now. Soul ruled. Okay. And then lastly is the twin flame. Let's do this. The twin flame on the twin flame path. And remember with the twin flame, I didn't mention this last week. So sometimes it will be like, oh, I resonate with this part, but I don't resonate with that part. You might need to do a switcheroo, like, oh, that's really my twin flame that he's reading about, or this is really me that he's reading about, right? So you just do the switcheroo. I'm not going to get tongue-tied about pronouns and things like that. You do the switcheroo, you'll know who it is. And you may really resonate with these readings, right? And you're like, well, I don't think I've met my twin flame. You'll know when you've met your twin flame, right? Because you can't let them go, right? It's not even your will; it's your soul. The soul is it's a divine connection. So it's soul led, right? That's the twin flame relationship connection is soul led. So you'll know. Right, you'll know. But you may not have met them yet, right? So it's like this will show that you're on a twin flame journey, a twin flame path, which is a spiritual path in itself. And we're going to see more twin flames in union after 2027, right? The frequency is changing. Remember, we're moving from a first line theme, which is fear, security. People getting together out of fear and security. That's the tribal consciousness. And then moving into a 6-line theme in 2027. And that's soul-led, right? Nothing to do with fear. Yeah. Okay. So the twin flame, the current truth of the connection is the Justice card and Judgment together. So this is a karmic contract. It's a contract here with Justice. And this is balancing the scales. So if control or dishonesty or fear have been at play in this connection, this would be codependency, anything like that, anything that's got to be weeded out from that tribal consciousness, the old paradigm, relationship paradigm, that has to go. So the scales have to come in balance. The scales of giving and receiving have to come in balance, for instance, right? If one gave more than the other received more than the other, right? That all has to come into balance first before union. Injustice there says that you can't skip the process. You can't bypass your own shadow work. This is bringing your shadow into the light. And you can't force union without addressing the imbalance. Energetically, it just won't work. So the connection is demanding integrity and transparency at every step. So You can't bypass, right? You can't bypass. You can't spiritual bypass this. Okay, so no control dynamics, right? The control dynamics of the twin flame and the dishonesty. Well, I'm not going to speak about this. I'm going to pretend that that meant nothing, or this connection means nothing to me. All that's got to be gone too. The dishonesty, that's the ego. And the transparency has to come in, which means vulnerability. And this vulnerability is a strength, not to the ego. It's a weakness. Okay. So the Justice card only cares about truth. It doesn't care about timelines and things like that. It's just about truth. So both twins have to come into truth. Cleaning up, right? Discerning. Walking the false programs, right? Out of their field. And then judgment amplifies this, right? These are two major arcana cards. So it amplifies that the connection is under karmic review, but there's also a higher calling sounding, and that's judgment. So together they're saying the time of reckoning is here. Both twins know. Even if one's in complete denial, they both know the power of this connection now. That's what these two cards are saying, right? This is awakening, it's resurrection, it's a higher call. This is calling you to your spiritual path. And if you're on a twin flame journey, then this is part of your spirit. This is part of your spiritual path, your soul purpose. So they both know this is not an ordinary connection. Right? The trumpet is loud in both the twins now. But they have to come into truth, right? First, before the resurrection here. Okay, so where does control still play out? Well, the shadow of control still play out in this twin flame connection. So it's the King of Wands upright and the Four of Wands reversed. And that's the twin flame card, is the Four of Wands. So King of Wands is fiery, masculine, leadership, vision, authority. But since it's in a shadow position here, so this could be dominance, control, ego, pride, my way or nothing. I can't show any vulnerability, right? And then the Four of Wands reversed is the union is upside down, right? It's the control. This control is preventing the celebration and the delays, right? So it's preventing celebration and delays the sacred union. So here's the shadow of control is the masculine archetype trying to dictate or manage how and when union happens instead of surrendering into transparency. So this would be like the hunter and the controller of the 21st gate, and it blocks the Four of Wands. It blocks the twin flame sacred union here. So you're either dealing with this with the karmic, or your twin is dealing with this with the karmic, or it could be you. Where are you prideful? Where are you not allowing yourself to be vulnerable? Where are you not allowing yourself to be transparent and honest, right? About this connection in your feelings, right? In your feelings. So what the divine feminine is being asked to embody is, there's the match here. We got two matches, the Four of Wands and then the King and Queen of Wands. So she's here to embody the Queen of Wands, and this is her feminine fire, her radiance, her independence, her magnetism, her sexuality. Queen of Wands is a very sexual card too, right? The Wands. So embracing her power, stepping into her eros and her magnetism. So the Queen of Wands is discerning. She's confident. She's not ruled by control. She's not controlling. She's not trying to control her emotions and her feelings through her using her mind, right? She's not going to try to control her environment, control her exposure, right? To triggers and things like that, messages. She's open. She's self-confident, right? She knows her self-worth, the Queen of Wands. She attracts rather than chases. So she attracts, uses her magnetism, and she refuses to dim her flame for the weak masculine. The Queen of Wands does not make herself small. She's not apologizing for her power and her intensity, right? Especially for the weak masculine. The weak masculine wants you small, divine feminine, right? If you're with a weak masculine, he's threatened by you and your radiance, right? Because he has to rise. And if he's a karmic, he's not coded to meet you. He can't rise to where you're going, right? So this is you're being asked to embody the Valkyrie archetype, to stand in your feminine power, to trust your radiance and trust your discernment, and choose only men of valor who match your flame, right? And then the divine masculine, what's he being called to do here? Well, the Nine of Swords and the Two of Pentacles reversed. So this is the overthinking, right? Overthinking, guilt, karmic pain he may be in, the imbalance, juggling, too much going on in his life, trying to keep all the plates spinning. But the divine is saying to stop and drop what's only aligned. See, the divine masculine may be taking on too much in his life. That's not really aligned. It's not his job, right? It's not his job. So drop what you're doing, simplify, right? Don't overthink and go, I should do this because I feel guilty, or I should do this, right? An old identity, I used to do this, right? It's like, let that go and simplify, and just simplify and go to what's aligned in the present moment. So also watch carrying other people's stuff, and notice when you're spread too thin and you're keeping everything spinning, you're not resting, right? So authority for the divine masculine is the gift of authority is clean, it's direct, it's uncluttered. So to embody that, drop the extra noise that's not yours. Are you thinking about things that you shouldn't be thinking about? Worrying about people you shouldn't be worrying about, right? For the divine masculine. So, in other words, your role isn't to juggle all the pieces or carry the anxiety of others. You want to cut through with clarity. So this is about releasing the mental torment and stop carrying what's not yours, old karmic control or burdens, and let go of juggling, right? And fear of standing in your power, right? Divine feminine standing in her power. Now it's for you to stand in your power, right? For you to be the King of Wands. And then the higher guidance for both, there's the Knight of Swords reversed, and the Sun. So this is a warning for both the divine masculine and divine feminine, is not to rush or force or try to mentally cut through this connection. I got to figure this out, right? I'm going to mentally understand this. You'll drive yourself crazy. Remember, it's soul-led, it's divine-led. So the union isn't built on speed and control. It's a slow burn, right? The twin flame journey is a slow burn. And then the Sun, there is illumination, joy, transparency. It's childlike innocence. So this is the Phoenix code of transparency. It's a love that underlies your bond, right? So the Sun, this is your inner children, right? The inner child of the divine masculine and divine feminine. There's an innocence there. Remember my last video, right? There's an innocent love between the twins. So let the truth of the sun, the warmth, the openness, the transparency illuminate the path. Let the sun illuminate the path, not the mind. The bond's strength is not rushing, but in radiant clarity. Like let the sun burn away, right? What's lower frequency within you? Let it burn away the shadows. And then the anchor card is the 10 of Wands and the Ace of Cups. 10 of Wands reversed. This is release the burdens for both, put down the weight of control and old karmic contracts, right? Let the karmic contracts go, dissolve them, right? So let go of the burdens. And then the Ace of Cups is new, right? It's pure, it's new love, it's your heart opening. It's a divine wellspring. So the foundation is drop the burdens of the old cross of planning. I should do this because I hold this role. I'm obligated and it's my duty to do this, right? Let that go. And then the union will flow innocently, organically, right? With overflowing love. But this is you opening up your heart. Both have to open up their hearts, right? To receive this Ace of Cups. This is the divine love. So you want to open the heart to the Phoenix, right? The Phoenix of true love. Okay. So there we go. In 1 hour, 45 minutes. That went by really, really fast. I kind of lose, because I feel like I just merge with the field, right? And I lose all concept of time. So what do I want to say? I want to say to trust and have faith in your higher self. Make time. Imagine you like your ideal man or woman, right? Whatever you're into. The ideal, like, okay, and I'm going to invite them over to my house and right, and I'm going to make this beautiful dinner or whatever, or whatever it is, right? You want to start to treat your higher self like that. When I do readings with women, it's like you got to make God, you got to make divine your new boyfriend, you know? And treat yourself like that, right? And that will bring in these virtues of self-sovereignty and self-respect and self-worth. And you're not going to attract those wounded men anymore because they don't need to come in and mirror how wounded and screwed up you are, right? You connect first with the divine. You connect to your source. All those virtues will automatically start to happen. You don't need to read a book on a self-esteem. You don't need to do things to gain self-esteem. All you need to be is aligned. That's it. And then you attract the strong masculine, the divine masculine, right, will come into your field because here they are. They're mirroring your potential. They're mirroring your greatness and your radiance and your power, right? So that's what I want to say for this full moon. And the full moon's going to illuminate where that is not working, right? And so that you can start to make different choices. But choose your soul and don't go into fear about money, right? You will be supported 100%. The divine wants you in your power. The divine wants you self-sovereign, right? So remember that. So you can follow me on Instagram, Telegram. I'm on there every day, and YouTube community. So you notice that I'm putting in what the transits are too, to keep you on track with the energy. Okay, so take good care, and I will see you in the next video, and I'll see you tomorrow for my daily posting. Okay, Satnam Aloha, everybody. Bye-bye.